The myths and legends of Scotland are full of what is called local colour. They afford us not only glimpses of ancient times and of old habits of thought and life, but also of the country itself at different times of the year. In the winter season, the great mountain ranges are white with snow, and many inland lochs are frozen over. But along the west coast, which is washed by the warm surface waters of the Atlantic and bathed in mild moist breezes from the southwest, there may be found sheltered and sunny spots where wildflowers continue to bloom. The old people believed that somewhere in the west the spirit of spring had its hiding place, and they imagined this hiding place to be a green floating island on which the sun always shone and flowers were always blooming. During the reign of Beira, Queen of Winter, the spirit of spring, they thought, was always trying to visit Scotland, and they imagined that Beira raised the storms of January and February to prolong her reign by keeping the grass from growing. Beira was regarded as a hard and cruel old woman, and the story of her exploits is the story of the weather conditions in winter and early spring. She rouses the dangerous whirlpool of Corrivrecken. She brings the snow. She unlooses the torrents that cause rivers to overflow. According to folk belief, it was she who formed the lochs and the mountains. In the days when the people had no calendar, the various periods of good and bad weather were named after the battles of Beira and the victories of the spirits of sunshine and growth. Gaelic-speaking people still refer to certain gales in February and March by their ancient names, the whistling wind, the sweeper, and so on. On the northeast coast, even those fisher folks who are not Gaelic speakers still tell that the fierce southwesterly gales of early spring are caused by the storm wife, whom they call Gentle Annie. This Annie may be the same old deity as Black Annis of Leicestershire and Anu of Ireland, whose name lingers in the place name the Paps of Anu, a mountain group in County Kerry. In Scotland, the story of the winter goddess Beira has a strictly local setting. She is, in consequence, a local deity. Bride, the lady of summer growth, is still remembered also, and there are beautiful Gaelic songs about her. Other stories have likewise a local character. Those who know the west coast will be familiar with the glorious transparency of the hill-surrounded lochs in calm weather. When the old people saw the waters reflecting the mountains and forests, the bare cliffs and the bright girths of green verdure, they imagined the land under waves, about which they, of course, made stories. The northern lights, aurora borealis, which are a feature of northern winters, also stirred their imaginations. They called these vivid and beautiful streamers nimble men and merry dancers, and believed they sometimes danced and sometimes waged war. In the red-spotted green stones called bloodstones, they saw the blood drops of the wounded. When the streamers are particularly bright, a red cloud often appears below them. This the old people called the pool of fairy blood. In like manner, they accounted for the restlessness of the waters of a strait between the island of Lewis and the Shant Islands by imagining that blue men were always swimming up and down this haunt of theirs, trying to sink boats and ships. As the Gaelic people have ever been great lovers of poetry, they made the blue men poets, and said that they spared those seafarers who were able to complete the half verses they shouted to them by way of challenge, for trial of skill. The blue men are peculiar to Scotland, and especially to the northwestern area.